if you had an honest protocol that couldn't be changed, that was just guaranteed, bounded by energy, guaranteed the free market, and then more and more people operated in the free market, abundance gained from all of the ideas competing for us would spread to us. It's the most optimistic place you could be. Like, it's so crazy because you're watching this emerge. You might be early, but you're moving to a spot where there's going to be 8 billion people in service of 8 billion people. We've always had to live in a control system which would go to war, kill millions of people, and then reset money, and then start again, over and over through this. We've always lived in this zero-sum game. And so if you were outside of the zero-sum game, truly outside of the zero-sum game, and you felt what that looked like, truly felt what it looked like, and it was getting easier and easier and easier, and it was a collection of, would you ever go back to the zero-sum game? My house was 6 years ago, 300 Bitcoin. Now it's 15 Bitcoin. 4 years from now, it'll be 1 Bitcoin.
In this conversation with Jeff Booth, we discuss why every country that has gone through a monetary collapse has produced two kinds of people: those who walked away with everything and those who lost everything. We discuss why Jeff says the same split is coming on a global scale, and why the people on the wrong side of it will not see it coming until it is already done. This is part 2 of the highlights from our conversation with Jeff Booth on our live show, Memes and Markets. Let's dive in. And that's my question, Jeff, is what happens to the people who don't adapt to this new system?
So in Venezuela, people could have held Bitcoin through their hyperinflation. Most people didn't. People that did extraordinarily well. People and could get out of Venezuela because they could spend it, they could bribe people, they could have anything they wanted, and the people who didn't just got completely wiped out. In every country, you see the exact same thing. This is what's going to happen everywhere, and people are going to get wiped out over and over and over again. And some people are going to take the Bitcoin that they have and sell back into the other system, and it's going to keep on distributing over and over and over again, because they're going to measure the protocol in pieces of paper.
And so, but does the system distribute in that sense then, or does it centralize?
So that is a really good question. So what you could expect is, if it centralizes, then I'm wrong on everything, right? Then there could be a nouveau rich that owned Bitcoin, right? That is centralized, and they have the control, but it's just changing these people for these people, right? And and the world still operates the same way. But why do I expect that it won't happen? Because of the conversations like this. You can tomorrow, you can today. You probably don't right now, even though we had the conversation last time. But you can go spin up a node today. You can be part of this. And once you know that you are part of this, so I know tens of thousands of people, right, that their lives are changing, right, and they're part of this. And so when I'm interacting with something that might seem, when you have 8 billion people saying something else, it can feel really noisy, and they're learning about this. But once you know, and you just the same thing that happened to me. It's exactly the same thing that happened to me. I just like to pretend that I knew this a long time ago. I didn't. So to pretend that you guys could know this, but now what you're doing is taking this out to other people, and each of us will face a choice. And if you run a node and you hold Bitcoin in self-custody and you decide to put your energy into this, then when this other system says you can't do this anymore, what are you going to do? You're going to keep doing it, right? And you're going to be joined by tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and then millions of other people that realize their voice matters, right? It's not what somebody else tells them to do. And so you could do that today, right after this podcast.
What does that look like? Because I know we say these words, node, self-custody, but even most people in crypto don't understand those terms, and then also how to act on that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you say crypto, that word, crypto, blockchain, it's a psyop to attack Bitcoin, right? It's nonsense. The whole thing is nonsense. And I don't mean the people are nonsense. There's some really great people trying to resolve a problem that can't be resolved from that system. There's some really good people. If I created a business in crypto, that I would need more and more people to use my thing. I would want other people to build upon my thing. Even if it didn't work, I'd have to find my way out because I'd invested all my money and time and everything else. I had to sell to the next person before I could get out. This is very different. It's a decentralized and secure protocol. So when these words go together, all these things kind of say, I'm going to trust that person because they know better. Right? They all come down to, right? Like, they have a really good scheme to be able to make this work. They have a good marketing play to be able to make this work. All of the things in all of this thing rely on somebody else knowing better than you. Bitcoin, that's why it's so harsh. Don't trust, verify. You don't have to trust anything I say. You can go through and verify for yourself in the open source code, and you can run a node. So you'd have to expect with this psyops attacking, right? You'd have to expect psyops everywhere trying to stop you from doing that.
So how do they learn how to actually do that, to run a node? Like, where do they acquire this information?
So BTC Sessions on YouTube has like 7, 8 years, 10 years of free content of on how to do this. So they could run a Start9. They could just buy a Start9 server. They could buy an umbrella device. They can create their own node. They can put together. My first one I put together myself because I just wanted to learn it. That's a little technical, but you can actually make it a lot easier. And there's here's a way to for your audience, you and everything else. Watch what people have said over a longer period of time, and ask if they've been right, and what their proof of work looks like over and over and over again. Because when you look back at people, what they said, they keep on changing to sell you the new thing. There's in Bitcoin, nobody, like most people like Ben at Bitcoin Sessions, not paid to do this. He wanted to create content for free for people to be able to do this. And as a result, he has just an amazing YouTube channel of content that's free. Now, you could hire him too. And he does this. He spreads it around the world for free, and it's created massive leadership for him from being an honest actor for a long, long time. So look for people that have been honest actors for a long, long time, and you'll see, or if they've made a mistake, that they've admitted where they've made the mistake, and then updated their information. Like you guys is a really great example, and your Stay Curious is. You brought me on because you're curious about this. A bunch of the people, not bad people or anything else, and you too, we're largely crypto, right? And you're gaining curiosity and everything else, and it's starting to bounce into previously held beliefs, right? And one will be right, one will be wrong. You'll either update your information and move forward, or not.
Love that. Yeah, I've really thought a lot about the proof of work in a human application a lot since we last spoke about, like, that's a great rule to live by. So I definitely try to think about that all the time. And with the internet, you actually can go look,
Totally.
which is really, really cool. So you can go see, like, was this person saying similar things 8 years ago, or have they completely shifted up? And then what does that say, right? But when I've tried to have these conversations with people who disagree, they'll always go back to, like, the fact that we need a central bank, or we need a central entity, otherwise anarchy would ensue.
So, but why? Or let's plausibly go through their saying and what they're actually saying. Okay. So ask the why. So you need a central bank, and a central bank is going to create an inflation rate out of money that's just made up into existence, right? And what is that? That's theft of your time to somebody else. Centralizing it steals from yours. So it's the opposite of what you're saying. You're saying anarchy is a bad thing, right? And you're saying freedom is a bad thing. But free markets are far more productive than central markets, because central markets require somebody to choose for you. And the free market has all choices in competition for you. So let's just, those two systems are opposites. We've never lived in the version we said. And so what's the person saying? They're saying, I believe that somebody needs to control me. By taking my money without a vote. Right? I have no vote in it. There is no democracy, because the money that's being taken is you don't have a vote in how much money is being taken.
Never.
So why would the world in that version of reality look more like COVID crisis, Epstein, all of these things that keep on happening out of that central control, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and that central control doing whatever they can to keep people locked into a belief system? Would it create wars in other places to try to make those people the enemy, to keep you locked in, so that you're like, all of the things based on theft would get worse and worse and worse, and your life inside that belt would get worse and worse and worse as you. So I don't get the question, because it's not deep enough. I don't know. I don't know the why, because really what you're saying is, I believe there has to be theft in money to have people coordinate, without asking what would happen with the theft in money and who would win, who would lose, right? And I think you said this on. I believe in the good in people. I've traveled to 85 countries. I've been everywhere, and I see what hope streams look like when you get out of the nonsense. Mm-hmm. And what I see is most of us are exactly the same. So we want the same things for our family, want the same things. So when you realize what it actually looks like versus the version of reality that you're being believed, that those bad people, it looks so different. And if you activate into those people now all have a choice. They can activate into something that is they can run a node. They can be part of a global solution for them, for everyone else, and they protect those people. And so when you're operating within a zero-sum game, giving your agency away, you don't know you have your agency.
I think most people don't think they have any agency, period. I think a lot of that has to do with the media systems that govern our perception. They're incredibly centralized and controlled. And so how would they not stop this from reaching the critical mass? Or why can't they stop it?
So did you read my bio on my on Twitter? So on Twitter, I put an agent up on Twitter. Yep. That is the essentially my it's me yesterday. So it's all of my corpus of information that debates with people and everything else. And Twitter, I think, because they just shut it down. But if you read the reason I put it up, and so it was engaging with people on Twitter, and it was getting thousands and thousands of likes, and everybody was engaging on it. And it's so if you just go into does it say the but if you go into my website and say I talk about it being in and go to articles, and that one, and this is exactly your point, right? The world, there's more and more agents. If I can do this with my own corpus of information, and it can act like me, and if you ask it questions on my website, it'll answer like me, completely like me. And so if I can do that with my own thing, and people think it's me, and they're engaging with it, and they're yelling at it, what does that mean? What does that mean? And how many people are engaging? They're wasting their time in these centralized platforms that are extracting their time, and they think they matter. They think it matters. So what I did is I wrote this, and I created this so I could explain what was happening. and what I'm doing in the alternative reality. Essentially, I'm spending time on Nostr. I'm spending my time with people I love, doing things I love, and removing it from the centralized system. And I have a choice in doing that in my time. So I don't play the game that everybody else is playing, and everybody has a choice to do it. And once they see what that means, they start to make more of these choices.
In my head, going back a little bit to some of the things we were talking about a bit ago, this idea of it potentially being human nature to some degree, that we've created some of these systems that are then designed to steal. My question is did the arising of the central banking system, the inflationary system, is that a human thing that occurred?
Yes. Did you see my speech at Bitcoin Vegas?
I did not.
Watch it and or link it to this if you don't, if you would. But if I tried to take it from I tried to say instead about Bitcoin, it's about us, right? Because you can, if I look at you two, right, and said each one of you has a model of reality, and that model of reality comes from all of the people you've met, books you've read, different things. Your parents had a model of reality. Your four grandparents, everything, and all of those people are kind of inside you and your thinking, including maybe me today, right? And these bounce into each other, and we all kind of observe this different thing, but it's all us at the center, right? Holding on to onto this, coming into the past doesn't actually exist. It only exists in our mind. This moment right now is the only moment that actually matters. It's the only moment that's real. And the future emerges from moments like this. And we come into these moments, your stay curious as an idea, right? We come into these moments so wanting to hold on to our identity from our past, we actually don't experience the moment, right? We don't actually truly experience the moment. And so that gives me truly a sense of awe and gratitude of all the people, the millions of people I could never thank in my life to created who I am today, which is different than the person I was yesterday, and different, and that evolved. And then we came together, and I look through your past, Keith, or your past, bouncing us right now, where we can have a conversation in this moment that might impact other people. Kind of is crazy powerful.
Big time.
But you watch what people do. You watch what most people do is their past is so their childhood trauma, their whatever it is, their stories that they tell themselves are so real for them that they make it real, and they block out anything else because they're still living in their past, or they're so wanting to run from their past into a different future, they're not living in their moment. So these moments come in, we don't live them. But what if you could? What if you actually experienced what that looked like, and you could accept all of the different ideas just neutrally into that Clarity Act past? Well, so into shaping your now model, it would mean we're all connected. We're all completely connected to everything that has ever happened, and we're a part of what comes forward. I find that really powerful, and then I use that example that I just described in how this new thing that would be outside of any previous understanding we had ever had would be observed by different observers. And then I looked at I looked at not bad people or anything else, but what it would look like from these different observers, and what would be the reflection of that model that they believed in back to them. And so you can watch that, and you can say what is it. But I think what you'll find is that's why this is going to be, there's way more of the observers going into this new thing that don't understand it.
You're watching the highlights from a conversation on our live show, Memes and Markets. Be sure to subscribe to this channel to make sure that you don't miss the best parts of our conversation from our live streams, where we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Now, back to the highlights.
Yeah.
And
such a good point. We see that all the time on the internet where like people come to whatever piece of content they're consuming, like looking for something, and they always find it.
Yeah.
Right. It's so fascinating to see all these people. And then I always wonder, it's like, have you ever thought about it? You're zooming in on one thing and you're missing out the bigger picture. And so
what you just said there, and I honestly, I think about this all the time, is when I watch the chaos and I watch what people believe, and they're so sure of their beliefs and they reinforce their beliefs, and everything around them is the same belief, and they look for people that kind of thing. Then I ask the next question: if that's true for just about everyone I know, it has to be true for me too.
Mm-hmm.
Has to be, right? And so now, how do you pull yourself out of that and ask just the same thing you did a different way, right? How do you pull yourself out and just be? Here's a different way. 10 people could say something great about you. One person could say something bad about you. You'll think about the bad all day.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that, right? And it's because it's shattering our identity, or what we tell, and that feels bad. And the good ones feel, but both the good and the bad is just information.
Yeah,
right?
It's data.
It's our version of what we make the information to be that drives our emotion and keeps us typically stuck.
I would completely agree. When I say stuff like this, people look at me like I'm crazy, or I'm not thinking. I'm not thinking about their situation. I'm like, I'm purely thinking about your situation. But you're clearly someone who's had very high agency. It seems like for a very long time. Can you pinpoint like why that is? Is that like a personal innate thing, or did something happen to you?
This is actually why I said the speech, because and this is where sometimes I get emotional talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That I couldn't thank all of the people that are part of me is so beautiful, and everything else. And I couldn't, because I've read 50 books a year since I was 18, right? All of those things, some people that I completely disagree with that are still part of who I am today. But when I see just about everybody I run into has something that's their genius.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then paired to their genius is their tethered liability, right? And when we talk about other people, most people you talk about want to talk about people's liability, the thing that they're bad at,
mm-hmm.
instead of the thing they're good at, right? And then we do this. It's fascinating. I think the biggest thing for me is observing kind of how other people act in the world. Then I have to realize that I probably do too, right? No better, no worse, no anything else. And then trying to fix those things to be able to take the same curiosity into how do I show up, and because what is the only way I could know, right, is I use this on many different podcasts before, but I use the victim analogy, right? What does the victim really want? They want love and belonging, right? And something happened to that person that everybody came to care, right? It showed up as that's the way I get love and belonging. And they use that thing over and over. They have a sign on their forehead that everyone else can see, and everybody talks about them behind their back. Nobody ever turns the sign around. What they do, and as people move away because it's too hard to be around that person, they double down to create more drama to try to bring the person back. And so they have a construct, a model of reality, trying to get love and belonging, that pushes the very thing they want away with all their might, but they don't know it, right? And that same construct, if you now say somebody does that where do you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you probably do it, because the only way, what you realize, if you can't see those things and they can't see those things, then and love and belong, that love is abundant everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
If they just had a different mental model.
I completely agree. Yeah, I sent a message to Keith probably about a few weeks ago. I was like, the internet is so awesome. You get to see how awesome people can be.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's such an amazing thing. When you truly grasp that, it's like, it's hard to not have hope for humanity when you see it on display how amazing people can be.
So that thing that you're talking about, and it creates your reality. So if you're walking down the street with two people, they see totally like if you have that reality that that's real, and somebody else has the opposite reality that people are bad, right? You'll see two different realities, and they'll both come true for each of you. It's not more true or less true; they're both true, right? And it's us bumping into when you so that shapes your view. It shapes it shapes the things you do, the people you meet, and the opportunities you see.
A lot of people are in rabbit holes within social media that have become very toxic because it allowed for this very thing you're describing to happen at such rapid paces and perfectly built to prey on human instincts or like stimulus inside their body that makes it more effective. How can someone audit or like start that process of being like, where is this happening for me?
These conversations, and then moving out of it, because you have to. So what I recognize in myself, if everyone I knew, because I use the victim analogy all the time, but let's say something in I'll use something in me, chasing more for a long time, more money, more success, more which could pull away from family things that say I wanted. And I could tell myself, all the people that tell me you're so successful, do this and everything else, would make me want to do that more, which would push my family. What are you doing? Where's our time? Right? And you wouldn't even see it. And then that would create a divide in your family. So what you'd have to, if you can't see it and your friends can't see it in them, then how could you have a harsh measure? And my harsh measure is, what will somebody else, what will my wife on a scale of 1 to 10 say about our relationship? If it's not a 10, it's me. What will each of my kids say about our relationship? If it's not a 10, it's me. Because it's so easy to say, to accept the credit that everybody shines on you. And then as soon as there's something negative, assign blame to somebody else. Right. And so the only objective way I could find to be able to find it myself is that, so that you would essentially you'd use the things that you wanted to blame on somebody else to find the deeper truth for you.
Jeff, for someone who is listening to this conversation, they've fully understood this idea of the natural state of the free market is deflation, and Bitcoin is a protocol that enables us to realize that world. All of these other things around how we think about how to live our life, the things that matter, things that are important, can also kind of collapse with the rest of those other thoughts.
Yeah.
What takes the place of that? Like, what would be the North Star if this is the reality of the world?
It's a beautiful thing. When I said both realities are true, depending on the observer, or all realities are true depending on the observer, then you have to ask yourself, what's happening in your own life to understand what that looks like. And what would happen if you had an honest protocol that couldn't be changed, that was just guaranteed, bounded by energy, guaranteed the free market, and then more and more people operated in the free market. The abundance gained from all of the ideas competing for us would spread to us, right? And as you added more people into that, there'd be more ideas, which would mean faster deflation, which means faster abundance, faster productivity gains, which would be faster abundance. And so how could you, so if you believe in hope and believe in people, and they all have a role in this thing, it's the most optimistic place you could be. Like, it's so crazy because you're watching this emerge. You might be early, but you're moving to a spot where there's going to be 8 billion people in service of 8 billion people. And it looks so dramatically different. So now you have to realize that you have two different systems, and the one that I'm describing has never existed. And we've always had to live in a control system, which would go to war, kill millions of people, and then reset money, and then start again over and over through this. We've always lived in this zero-sum game. And so if you were outside of the zero-sum game, truly outside of the zero-sum game, and you felt what that looked like, truly felt what it looked like, and it was getting easier and easier and easier, and it was a collection of, would you ever go back to the zero-sum game? And so that's what gives me hope. But then if you think about structures, how do you control somebody? Like, what happened in COVID? What happened in how you control somebody is through fear, right? And today there's this giant, more and more fear, more and more anxiety, removing your own agency, that's trying to suck you back in to, you're not enough, right? You're only enough if you look like this person or this or that, and you have tons of people that don't have enough money. They're trying to get enough money. They're taking risk on everything else inside that system, believing other people, and creating more and more fear. And that fear, if you are in fear, you cannot see opportunity. They're two different ideas. If you are in hope and you're in abundance, you see tons of different opportunity. And so what the biggest thing is, I know for sure that the structure of the nature of reality from credit money has to create more fear, anxiety structure, more control, less agency. It's mathematically, it has to. And if you're outside of that system, you're living in the opposite of that system. It feels really hopeful, feels really abundant, you see beautiful people moving in all the time. And once they're moving in, they never go.
You're watching the highlights from a conversation on our live show, Memes and Markets. Be sure to subscribe to this channel to make sure that you don't miss the best parts of our conversation from our live streams, where we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Now, back to the highlights.
Go back.
What would stop the current powers from getting enough Bitcoin to then just basically create the same reality if we switched over to this new system? Or are you saying that it wouldn't matter?
It wouldn't matter, because it's not the number of Bitcoin. It's the decentralized and security. Let's go forward on a Bitcoin standard. Let's say now money is Bitcoin, and you're not trading in a piece of paper that's being stolen from you, and you have 10,000 Bitcoin, and so you're purchasing. If you don't want to gain more Bitcoin, you have to contribute more value than you'd receive, right? So you have to contribute to society to have somebody give you their Bitcoin. And that competitive force is constantly competing against you to deliver more value. If you want to live life high you have no more control. You could spend more, which is distributing your Bitcoin to other people who are is where it's constantly distributing. You could create an army to try to take people's Bitcoin, but it's decentralized and secure. So what would you be doing by creating an army? Giving up your Bitcoin faster. Right? All those roads end in the same place. So we can expect a whole bunch of these things to happen, right? But you can move into the system, you can run a node, you can own a protocol, the part of a protocol that is the productivity of the world flowing to you. Just hold on to the protocol, spend in the protocol, start meeting other people who are using the protocol. And you'll see all of these different opportunities emerge that you didn't even know existed while you were in the other system.
Where are the places in the world where this has been the most developed so far?
It's so we have portfolio companies, and this is just to give you a sense. We have portfolio companies that are doing billions of dollars per quarter in Lightning transactions on top of Bitcoin. Well, the world says Bitcoin's not being used as a currency, right? So it's crazy to watch what we see, and this is happening. Well, one of those is in Africa. It's growing really, really fast in Africa. There's a whole bunch of different things in Africa where money would be more broken. You can see in El Salvador too, where kind of turned around the economy, everything by doing this. Bitcoin isn't broadly used in El Salvador. It's broadly used in pockets of El Salvador, and there's circular economies within El Salvador that are completely on Bitcoin. Thailand, different places. So yeah, Bitcoin Akasi in Africa, but just lots of different pockets, and those pockets are now coming together, right? And best practices and different things and different technologies. So it's emerging. There's no, I wouldn't say there's a nation state besides El Salvador.
As we transition to this, if and when it happens, we mentioned a lot that there would be every bit of an attempt to stop it, and that could potentially lead to like more totalitarian things and measures of that sort. Have you thought about like where people should be living or considering living to try to alleviate some of that?
So I've moved to the U.S. right now from Canada, and I'll probably, if it just said the way we think about kind of our house or how we grew up, if you just our mental models, right? The previous mental model, white picket fence, you want your family, your kids playing on the street and everything else, and you realize that that's already gone. The neighborhoods don't look like that anymore. And why don't they look like that anymore? Largely because the house is being used to protecting debasing of money, right? And so the house value versus the money has gone way up, and the families can't live in the houses anymore. It's owned by and so the entire system degrades by the same money, right? And it's breaking down faster and faster, and people are taking all this leverage to try to live in a house because they think that's their only way out to escape the financial nightmare that they're in for their money losing value. So they're essentially storing their purchasing power in a house because it can't be stolen as fast as money, right? And then they don't realize that then the taxes are going to go way up on the house, right? And they don't actually own their house. They're paying a huge mortgage to be able to have the privilege to rent a house from the government.
Yeah, it's more of a trap than anything.
And it becomes a trap, and they go into that. So then the foundation of society starts to break down. You need two incomes to be able to afford the house. Kids don't have one of the parents at home. Things start to change all across this, and it gets worse and worse and worse. From the alternative system, from Bitcoin, it's repricing the house, right? So my house was 6 years ago 300 Bitcoin. Now it's 15 Bitcoin. 4 years from now it'll be 1 Bitcoin, right? The house was never going up. It was going up according to infinite monetary units. Mm-hmm. Fixed monetary units, it's going down, right? So these things are it's just going to impose a reality, and people are going to make different choices against that. And to your question, and I didn't get to the end of the question, is what does that mean? If the past 30 years look like this, and people trying to hold their money constant that created all these other problems, the next 10 is you have exponential technology trying to drive exponential productivity, trying to drive labor out, right, to make things more affordable, better, against things that are rising in prices like crazy. You have to remove labor faster. Why? Because if you don't use the AI to remove the labor, then somebody else will, and your company will be non-existent because we won't use the thing that costs more. We're a part of it. So that thing should provide all of us value. If we don't, or if we're not on a monetary standard that allows that to provide us value, it's getting extracted at a crazy rate. And so what does that mean for the next 10 years? Where, what? It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be crazy chaotic because there's very few people that know what I'm talking about right now. There's very few people actioning. Even if they knew, there's very few people, in a percentage wise, running nodes, activating in, spending their time in a new system. Most people are still giving all their time to the system that's extracting their time. So you can say, if that's true, the next 10 years are going to be very chaotic.
So why America then?
So America's 50, the states that have more control than in Canada, right? Provide some sort of decentralization. to a control system. It's messy, it's chaotic, everything else, but it typically resolves around that free will, and the states, and it's more of a spot right now that I'm going to be watching other areas emerge, and what I think about is I don't want to be married to a place anymore for the next little while. I want to be, I want to still think same things for my family, same thing and everything, but I'll solve them a different way rather than the white picket fence, and because I'll need to have that flexibility in the world that is moving forward.
The final thing that comes to my mind that I want to make sure I ask is, isn't it technically in the best interest of the people who have the most control now to promote the Bitcoin standard if it's inevitable?
Yes, but so what ends up happening by the mental model? So if you live in fear and you saw technology doing this and you said, okay, technology is moving at this rate, and that means that people can bioengineer a biohazard in their home and kill millions of people. What you would drive from that model is, I need more control to stop those people, right? And I need to have a massive surveillance state to control people, and that would get worse and worse and worse. And then as these people were what they were really doing is rebelling against a control system. Right, you see it all, and the more you pressed, the more you would create the thing the thing you hated the most. But you wouldn't know it from inside that. You could tell yourself, I have to do this to protect people, and it could be believable to you. When the actual people don't want to do that, right? They want to do they want to live a life. They want to live a life so when people are living in hope, abundance, and everything else, they're not likely to create all these things from the same technology that could create it. But the control system thinks, right? You look at Palestine, Israel, look at those bad people and what they do and everything else. We got to stop those terrorists, right? More and more surveillance, which we fund because we believe we're living in fear of what could happen by those people. If you resolve that in a different way, everybody has abundance. You're competing to provide value to other people, and the output of all of us competing is we all win. That goes away. But it's such a mind break from how people are measuring what we're describing. Right? You can't see the solution from the control system. In fact, you're making the problem worse. Name one thing name one thing that you are fearful of that you could solve from a system that arbitrarily creates more monetary units. And you realize every single thing you worry about is from that system.
Appreciate your time, Jeff.
So much,
Thank
Jeff.
you so much,
really
Jeff.
Appreciate
Have
it.
a wonderful week. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Wait, this was only a highlight from our live show, Memes and Markets, where we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. You can click the link in the description to subscribe to the live show, and be sure to turn on all notifications so that you can get a reminder when we go live. Also, YouTube thinks that you will like this next.